10. Pranking 911. In early 2020, a 17-year-old in Spring, Texas, pranked the police and reported a fake robbery in progress because he wanted to see his friend get harassed, arrested, and possibly even beat up by the police. According to the teenager, it was all just a joke, but that wasn't the way it played out. And it definitely didn't seem like a joke to the cops who showed up to investigate. The prank robbery report came in around 4:40 p.m. on a Monday at the Easy Stop food store. The 17-year-old didn't even call the police. He actually texted 911 to let them know there were two men currently robbing the store with their guns drawn. Deputies arrived quickly, immediately realized there was no robbery taking place, and felt pretty upset over the whole ordeal. They interviewed people at the store and in the general area, and nobody knew anything about a robbery. What the teenager didn't realize was that the police could figure out who he was since he had stupidly texted them off his own phone. He was charged with giving a false report, all because the teen said he wanted his friend, who had been on the scene at the time of the text, to get jacked up by the police. 9. The Beauty Queen and the Explosive. Kendra Gill was once a Utah beauty queen, but in 2013 she grudgingly accepted a plea deal after she was accused of throwing homemade bombs from a moving car in a suburb of Salt Lake City. Kendra and the other 18-year-old she was with pleaded guilty to attempted possession of a chemical device. However, Kendra had her charges dismissed after completing 200 hours of community service. She also had to pay a fine of $500, but managed to wiggle her way out of the situation without any felony charges or real criminal repercussions. It all started when Kendra and 3 of her friends learned how to make bombs using toilet bowl cleaner and aluminum foil. These aren't big bombs that will blow up a house, but they do go boom and make a small explosion. The solution was mixed into plastic bottles and thrown out the window of the moving car. The teenagers claimed it was a harmless prank because nobody got injured. But if one of those toilet bombs had hit someone or landed on a dog, it could have been much worse. In the end, the case was fast-tracked because none of the teenagers had a criminal history, and they seemed to mostly be upstanding citizens. Kendra herself had recently competed in beauty contests and won a scholarship of $2,000, only weeks later to be charged with manufacturing homemade bombs. 8. Too much Coca-Cola. A YouTuber by the name of King Sid, a guy with at least 200,000 subscribers, was recently arrested after he and a couple of pals misused the 911 emergency service in January of 2022 as part of a YouTube prank. In the video, the YouTuber King Sid, real name Jason Sid, instructed his friends to call the cops and report weird and suspicious activity at a gas station in Florida. The weird and suspicious activity was actually just King Sid baiting the cops to his car. When the police showed up and asked what was going on, the YouTuber and his friends said that they had something in the trunk. This prompted another van full of cops to show up, and everyone was told to step out of the car. Then, when the police searched the vehicle, they discovered a trunk full of Coca-Cola, not guns or cocaine, or a body like they may have been expecting. The YouTuber was allowed to leave the scene, but later arrested after the cops realized they had been the butt of a joke. According to Clyde Perry with the Coral Springs Police Department, he was personally offended by the prank and how it wasted precious time and resources. He said the YouTuber did it to try and show how overtly aggressive police officers are when they respond to calls. which they weren't in this incident. And in the end, he got a slap on the wrist, while his video accumulated hundreds of thousands of views. 7. Inappropriate candy. In 2017, a man in Chicago sent a large chocolate candy bar to the McLennan County Sheriff's Office, hoping to get a laugh. More specifically, he sent a candy bar to an employee named Tracy Chance, and that candy bar was shaped like a giant and gratuitous male body part. His name is Thomas Gourneau, and he said the novelty item was sent to Tracy as a prank. It was just supposed to be a gag, something to lighten the mood and get some laughs at the police station. Instead, the cops took major offense and turned it into a criminal case. Now, in case you were wondering, these people weren't strangers. They actually knew each other. Thomas used to date Tracy's ex-wife, and the two men had always been in a less than friendly relationship. They sent each other unsettling emails and had a healthy rivalry. But apparently the chocolate candy bar shaped like a phallus was the last straw and boiled the bad blood already between the two men. Following Thomas's arrest, the case got dragged through the court system for 2 years. Then, just as the pretrial hearing was coming up, the district attorney's office decided they would dismiss the charges because the case was too ridiculous. Even though Tracy complained that Thomas had harassed, annoyed, abused, and tormented him, the district attorney could clearly see it was all just a prank that one party took a little too seriously. 6. Not knowing how to swim. A woman received 1 year in prison following a prank gone wrong on a boat. In 2021, Shontover Kirkland from Georgia caused the deaths of 2 men completely by accident, and yet also very much on purpose. The 32-year-old pleaded guilty to reckless conduct and involuntary manslaughter, and now she's going to be doing 12 months behind bars. It all happened in Lincoln County on Clarks Hill Lake. Kirkland rented a pair of boats for a birthday celebration. She and a bunch of friends took the boats out for a day on the lake, expecting to have an awesome time. But Ian Wilson and Edward Kirk ended up losing their lives. Shontover Kirkland didn't know that Edward Kirk had no idea how to swim. As part of a prank, she shoved him off the boat and into the lake. He began flailing wildly, clearly in serious distress, and that was when Ian Wilson jumped in to try and save him. However, Wilson appeared to be just as poor of a swimmer, and both men vanished underneath the water and weren't seen again that day. Their bodies weren't discovered until a week later. Technically, Shontover Kirkland committed accidental murder. She had only been trying to tease her friend, whom she had known since she was only 14 years old. They had been friends their whole lives, and she had no ill will for him at all. She had just been messing around. But that poorly thought-out prank sent her lifelong friend into the cold and deadly waters of the lake. Shontover's guilt will likely stay with her forever. 5. Water gun prank gone wrong. On June 2nd, 2022, Ethan Fleming was beaten to death in response to a prank involving a water gun. Ethan was only 17 years old at the time and hadn't intended to hurt anyone. He pulled out a water blaster and started shooting water at a group of older guys playing basketball. They didn't appreciate the joke, and they came out from the basketball court and beat Ethan until he stopped breathing. According to the Akron police, Deshaun Stanford, Tyler Stanford, and Donovan Jones were all arrested on June 11th in response to the murder. Police Chief Stephen Myatt said Ethan lost his life in a senseless act of violence and in no way deserved what happened to him that night. All he had done was shoot water at some strangers playing basketball, and they had overreacted and committed homicide. Ethan had dreams of being a lawyer, had a bright future ahead of him, and now he's gone. and a scholarship is being set up in his name through Akron Public Schools. 4. Swapping schools. A couple of students in Alabama thought it would be hilarious if they pulled a prank by switching schools. The students described it as a harmless senior prank. A small group from Chilton County High School and a small group from Jemison High School showed up at one another's schools, walked into each other's classes, and expected that the teachers would catch them in the act. But they weren't caught right away, and both groups of students managed to spend almost the entire day hanging out at opposite schools with nobody the wiser. Alas, the teachers did eventually figure it out, and the repercussions were extreme. The teenagers were threatened with going to jail. They had their scholarships revoked, and all they had wanted to do was have a bit of fun before graduation. When the teachers realized what had happened, they stole the kids' phones, towed their cars out of the parking lots, banned them from the school premises for a year, and even suspended them from their own schools. Those who were on sports teams were kicked off the teams, and the seniors were forbidden from attending prom. It ended as a total disaster for the kids, whose futures may have just been ruined because they thought it would be funny to attend a different school for a day. According to the local parents, the school lashed out at the kids because they exposed how horrible the security is, since a bunch of strangers were able to loiter in the school for almost an entire day. 3. Expired eggs and gunshots. On October 20th, 2021, Rachel Olivia Buchanan was shot and killed. It was a heart-wrenching accident caused by a prank gone horribly wrong. It all went down in Hendersonville, North Carolina. Rachel, who's only 19, was shot outside the city limits by a pair of men, one who happened to be her boyfriend. According to local DA Andrew Murray, Rachel and her boyfriend had been hanging out with another couple at one of their houses. They realized that they had forgotten their charger, and so the two men left together to go down the street and pick up a charger at the other couple's house. It was just a quick trip so that they could all charge their phones. But because there was a rumor of a Black Panther living in the area and prowling about at night, the two men brought guns with them. They were afraid they might be attacked by the Panther, since there had been so many recent sightings. When the men left to get the charger, the two women decided they would play a prank on them by hiding outside the house and throwing expired eggs when they returned. The women positioned themselves down an embankment in the dark, ready to throw stinky eggs. But then they started giggling when the men got close, and the men thought they heard a growling panther. Then they heard a stick break. They saw a dark figure in the ditch, and both men pulled out their guns and started shooting. Before anyone really knew what happened, Rachel Buchanan had taken 3 bullets and lay dead in the ditch. 2. Messing around gone wrong. 20-year-old Charlie Gadd, a student at the University of Essex, was last seen alive on December 11, 2021. Charlie had gone out with his parents for a family night in the English city of Manchester. They went to the Warehouse Project, a popular area for visitors, and had a great time. Charlie was last seen on surveillance footage standing outside the Royal Exchange Theatre and moving toward St. Anne Street. You see, Charlie wanted to mess around with his parents and pull a prank on them by running off into the night. It was about 1 o'clock in the morning when Charlie slipped away, thinking it would be a hilarious gag. But when he didn't show up by 11 o'clock in the morning, 10 hours later, his family reported him missing to the police. The case is still not totally solved, and nobody really knows what happened. Charlie was an adult who should have been able to find his way back to the hotel in Manchester, even though he wasn't familiar with the city. And yet somehow he must have gotten turned around and then died. His body was found 1 month later on January 10th, dumped in the Manchester Ship Canal. No one has any idea how he got there. if he was killed, or what went on in the hours after he tried to pull the prank. 1 second he was there, and a month later he was found in a canal. 1. The Target Challenge. Charlotte Fisher and Johnson LaRose, known as Saucy and Honey on YouTube, were arrested and charged with third-degree criminal trespassing after they stayed overnight at a Pennsylvania Target on February 21, 2022. They did it for their YouTube channel as something called the Target Challenge. This is where people attempt to stay 24 hours in a Target shopping center, sleeping in the store overnight, and filming it all to upload online. Everything started out okay until the alarm went off. The police arrived to check for any burglars, didn't find anything unusual, and so they left. But the next day, employees at the store looked over their security footage and learned exactly what had happened. The YouTubers had hidden themselves inside cardboard boxes before the employees left the store for the night, and then just kind of wandered around the Target for the rest of the time with flashlights. They didn't steal anything, although they did build a box fort and take a brief nap. Charlotte and Johnson were planning on spending the whole night in the store, but gave up and snuck out a back door at about 3 o'clock in the morning. This was what set off the alarms and brought the police. But then they foolishly returned at 8 o'clock in the morning to film another segment for their video. The pair were arrested and charged, and now they're looking at up to 7 years in prison for their little prank. Although, to be fair, they did go from about 17,000 subscribers to 20,000 subscribers after the video. Would you rather be stuck in a Target for 24 hours or a Waffle House? Let us know which would be worse in the comments. And thanks for watching. Remember to hit subscribe and come back soon. Bye.